Welcome to Table Talk, a 12-step journey with Nick Robinson.
Welcome back to the conversation. I'm Nick Robinson, and I'm here with Rick as we continue our 12-step journey, talking around this table, and today we are on step number 6. Rick, what is step number 6?
Step number 6 is we're entirely ready to have Him remove our shortcomings.
Entirely ready to have God remove our shortcomings.
Yes.
So what's the most important word in that sequence of words? Ready? Entirely? God? Remove? What word do you want to land on first?
There's so many traps in that
There
little
are.
statement.
You're welcome.
It's kind of like a loaded statement, or what's a loaded question? I don't know, honestly, because you break that down. I think probably, are we ever ready to have something that has become so much a part of our identity? Because when I first started looked at step 6, my first inclination was, well, can I just start praying about this? Let me just skip this one and just go straight to 7 and start praying, because step 7 says, I'm just going to pray to have these removed. But I had to identify, well, what's going to get taken away. Yeah. So becoming ready to have my shortcomings, I've got to identify what those were and what those are. So then I had to recognize what are my shortcomings and what is, because some of those are really a part of my identity, and they have been for so long. And I realized that some of those shortcomings define me.
No.
And do I want my identity to change with that?
Mm-hmm. I remember kind of in my process of wrestling with depression.
Right.
Like one of the first times that was really freeing for me was when I learned that some people that I knew also had depression, and so it freed me up to finally acknowledge that I was depressed, that I was anxious. And then later, I was getting help. I was making some progress, but I was not always sure that I'd wanted to quit being depressed. I didn't like being depressed, but it was my defense mechanism. Right. It was how I dealt with so many things. And I don't want to make that a blanket statement about everyone's depression, but for me, it was absolutely a tool that I used to not face things to deal with certain things. Like something goes bad, instead of like wrestling with it, I just kind of shut down and I'm like, I'm worthless. Let's give up. And like I didn't start healing more and more from that until I was actually ready to change, to imagine life of giving that up fully. Right. Those thought patterns that were not helping me. What's the difference between entirely ready and partially ready?
Well, I mean, we've had the benefit of the first 6 steps.
Yeah.
So I made it through step 4, made the list. I made it through step 5, which is, I've worked with my sponsor. I've gone through this work of this confess my sins, of healing. I've dropped this rock of this albatross of sharing this information. So I kind of have this breather of reality, okay? So now I realize that from that has come this healing, and that's a good thing. I've also identified some good things about me. But having gone through that, there are some shortcomings. So I have to identify what they are. But with that, I'm going, okay, Lord, I'm ready now for you to start. I've whittled off the big chunks of the tree that are this dead wood. But now I've come to recognize, okay, there's some short things. So this is when God starts working on not the chainsaw stuff, but he brings out some fine, hard sandpaper, and he wants to start smoothing. Well, that hurts. That's abrasive still. But
take some sandpaper to your skin. Yeah, it's abrasive still.
That's abrasive. It still hurts. He's always going to be whittling just a little bit. And so now we're coming down to some stuff that it still hurts. But now he's going, are you ready for me, Rick, to not just take the big obvious stuff that we've worked on, or are you ready to start dealing with your sarcasm?
No.
Which that's protective. I mean, that's it might come off as humorous, it might look funny, but that really hurts people.
And we might even take pride in it.
Yeah, yes. And you might think it's because it has a sharp wit and you're tuned in and you've got a large vocabulary and you can play off of a room. But what you're really doing is you're trying to elevate yourself and you're arrogant. You're actually in the process, you're putting the people down around you to elevate yourself.
And that might be out of your insecurity.
Absolutely.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, this is getting even more real, and we're getting really deep. And that all of a sudden, that became something. Well, that's who I thought. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that mirror that I was afraid to look in step 4, now that mirror, somebody's actually taking some cleaner to it, and it's getting even more clear. And that's difficult.
Well, in step 4, we talked about this idea of kind of separating our present self from our past self. And so that way we could make a list of kind of the moral stuff without it crushing us. And to be able to be fearless, to be able to be, seeking all of the truth, those kinds of things. Here, I'm wondering, because I'm picturing this like looking at, so if we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, we're starting to look at who we could be.
Right.
Like it's not just who I am, but can God really remove all of these things? Is that accurate to say? Am I off base? What do you think, Rick?
Well, Paul tells us that we see as only through a veil.
Yes.
Like the man in James says, we look at it as into a mirror, but it's only we walk away, and then we forget what we look like. Exactly. And there's a part of me that wants to forget the old man, just like Joe said. I don't forget what I was, but I press on. I look forward. I look ahead. And I do want to look ahead. But the step 4, I'm looking at a cracked mirror. Now I'm looking at a mirror and I see more clearly. And like I said previously, my word for 2026 is becoming. And I want to see what I am becoming, the new man, like Joe talked about. As he looked at his list for step 4, he looked at his list, and all of a sudden he realized how far he had already come.
Yeah.
And then Jolie said in step 5, not only who he had become, but as he confessed your sins to one another, you shall be healed. He saw the healing that came from that. Now here I am in step 5, and not only am I going to get healed, but my shortcomings are like scar tissue. Now the scar tissue starts to get even less and less obvious. Some scar tissue will always remain, but it's there to remind me by his stripes I am healed. And I can take that and I can say, look what was, but look who I am now, what I am becoming. I'm becoming a man of God, a child of the King, and now I can then keep going to steps 7, 8, 9, and it reminds me to keep going and what is yet to come moving forward.
So this has going back to our words. And this one's got a lot of words here. So to have God, ready to have God do this, why isn't ready to have the 12 steps do this for me, or ready to have my self-help practices do all of this for me? Why are we looking for God to be the one to do this?
God is doing for us what we cannot do for ourselves. I go back to nothing is impossible with God. I can't do it any more than I can forgive my own sins. Go back to Romans 11:11, where we started in the very first episode. Have these fallen so far as to be beyond recovery? By no means. I can't fix my own problems. I can't forgive my own sins.
Life was unmanageable.
Life was unmanageable, or I wouldn't have started in this process to begin with. I would never have walked through the doors of that room to begin with. I never would have asked for help. Yeah. I would have still believed the lie. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm okay. I got this. That didn't work before. It's not going to work on this step either.
Perfect. Well, let's wrap up our intro to step number 6 there, and we're going to bring Shawn out to tell us a little bit about experience with step number 6. We'll be right back after a short break.
Okay.
Welcome back to step number 6. I'm still here with Rick, and we've brought Shawn into our conversation today as we continue talking about step number 6. Shawn, our first question for every guest on this conversation is, why did you say yes to being here?
To pave it forward and give back
Yeah.
in recovery.
So do you have a sense that a lot of people have invested in you in this process?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Tons of people.
Have you-
Countless people have invested
Countless.
in me.
Have you often been able to pay it forward? Is that something that you get to do on a regular basis?
I try to as much as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. So here on step number 6, another question I like to ask people is, what was challenging about step number 6 for you?
As far as
Doing it, being ready, or relying on God, acknowledging defects, having hope that all of them can be removed? Like, what were the hard parts?
I was ready.
You were ready?
I was ready. I was ready for step 6 way before I ever got to it.
Okay. Well, yeah. Why were you so ready?
I was tired, wore down. Yeah. I needed to start working the steps years before I ever did. Even in active addiction, I would read the Bible and then pray for help and to be free from addiction. And yeah, it wasn't hard. I was ready for it.
So when you were in active addiction, reading the Bible, praying for help, and then you got to step number 6, I'm wondering, were those two different experiences, or did they feel very similar?
Similar.
Okay.
Similar. 4 and 5 were hard for me, but 6 was easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that, so 4 and 5 were hard. Was it like the fact that they were hard that made 6 easy, or was it just you were ready all along?
I was ready. I needed it. I've done lost everything I could lose, and I was at rock bottom for a long time. Mm-hmm. It was that or die.
Yeah.
There was only up.
And your choice was clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the things in this is to have God remove all of these things. Did you try to do it on your own before you were ready for God?
No.
No.
I was 20 plus years in active addiction, and
Okay.
I literally lost everything. My daughter, my house, my job, vehicles, every bit of finances I had. Burned bridges with the parents, my siblings. I was homeless there at the end, and
Yeah.
I had nothing. And yeah, I had to get clean.
Yeah. It was time to change.
I was sleeping outside under a tarp in a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
You know, and my parents had no trespass me from their property. Yeah. And it's still this day, I haven't seen my daughter in almost 40 years.
Yeah.
I'm trying to fix that.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully that'll come. You
Yeah.
know, but-
And so I'm hearing that in some ways you're still ready for some things to show up.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So your steps number 6, you were ready, but you're still ready
Yeah.
for what comes next.
Yeah. You know, so I've contacted my child's mother, and she says my daughter's not ready, and I understand that. I've done a
Yeah.
lot of damage.
Yeah.
She seen me in a really bad spot. I had custody of her in the worst of my addiction before I overdosed and lost custody.
So how do you so you're waiting on this, and I know that's really hard. How do you stay ready right now, even while it's hard? How do you stay ready for that thing?
Faith and a lot of prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Faith and prayer. Rick, I'm wondering, you've been so helpful in each of these steps telling us that the word that is associated with each step. So step 4 was courage. What is the word for step 6?
Perseverance.
Perseverance. Interesting. So the whole time I was thinking hope, because I just like of looking forward into this. But hearing Shawn's description of being ready, perseverance rings very true.
Well, if you think about what do they say most of the time when you're getting ready to start a race?
On your marks, get ready.
Well,
Something like that. They don't let me run very many races.
or
Rick.
they either say on your mark, ready,
Yeah.
and shoot the gun, or they say ready, set,
Yeah.
go. And we've just come through 4, 5, 6, and then 6 is ready, 7 is the prayer, and 8 and 9 is when you start making the amends. 10, 11, and 12 is the lifestyle steps. So, this is a readiness because we've just come through that healing stage. That's why the steps are in order like they are.
Mm-hmm. And like to stay ready even after you've done a lot of work, because this is the end of the first half of
Right.
the 12 steps as we come down this route. Shawn, in your waiting and your readiness, did you ever question whether God would do this work in you?
No.
No?
No, if I'd done my part, I knew God would be there.
Mm-hmm. You had faith?
I've always had faith in God.
Okay.
Even when I was at my worst, I knew God was there. I was in active addiction. I'd still read the Bible daily. And my dad would just shake his head. I'd be spun in my mind reading the Bible.
Yeah.
And he thought I was a fool. But
Yeah.
I was still a believer.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and,
faith doesn't solve all of our problems. Yeah. Like, you can read your Bible going through really hard stuff, and it doesn't make the hard stuff go away.
I would highlight things in my Bible and go knock on my dad's door and ask him stuff about it.
Yeah.
Been up for days.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd just shake his head. But I had questions.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you were reading your Bible in these kind of before times, what kind of stuff stood out to you?
Everything, man.
Yeah.
You know how it is. You think a lot more into things when you're on a speed buzz. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm not gonna get too far into it, but yeah.
No. Your brain is racing, and you're just making connections, and you
Yeah.
got lots of questions
Yeah.
and a lot of curiosity. So you're going to a source that might know some things
Yeah.
and be able to help you out.
Yeah.
Shawn, I'm wondering, so part of this is that God would remove all of these defects of character. All's a big word. Like, are you experiencing that in your life, that all are being removed?
I've got a lot of defects. I don't think all of them will ever be removed, but slowly but surely, every day goes by, I get better.
Yeah.
I pray about it every evening. Make me the man you want me to be. Let me do your will.
And you kind of set the standard, make me the man you want me to be. You've set the standard of measurement outside of yourself. It's not, God, I want to be this person, so make me into that person. It's make me into the man you want me to be. And I'm also struck, so here, because I think I've been misreading this the whole time. Because it's ready to have God to remove all these character defects of character. It's not necessarily, you're still leaving it into God's hands. Like, you're simply ready for God to do this work. You're not even counting on God doing this work necessarily yet. I mean, not in this step yet. I know that's coming for us.
Right.
But right here is just like this internal work of being ready. I think I learned something just now.
See, I'm ready, but I'll never be perfect.
Yeah.
It's,
So I'm a United Methodist pastor. John Wesley would talk about a thing called Christian perfection. And honestly, I don't talk about it that often because I think this idea of telling people that God will make us perfect one day, and in Christian perfection, the definition is that our will would be aligned with God's will perfectly. Not that we would be without defect, but that would be perfectly aligned with God. Shawn, you say you know you'll never be perfect. Does perfection come up often in conversations around step number 6? Are people pushing towards perfection, or you just gotta be ready?
just be ready.
Just be ready?
Just be ready.
So, Shawn, I know you've given back to people throughout your journey. What would you say to somebody who's struggling with step number 6? Someone who wasn't ready and hadn't been ready for decades before they got there. What would you say to somebody?
Just give it a try.
Give it a try?
You give it a try. You have to take that jump. You have to. I mean,
What happens for when people don't take the jump?
they fail miserably. I mean, you have to put in the effort. You have to attempt to work the steps. You have to have a sponsor. And you have to work the program 100%. You can't have one foot in, one foot out.
No.
Right, Rick? I mean,
What? Yeah. Well, I'm sitting here with a little bit of an advantage, knowing his role as a house manager.
Absolutely.
In a sober living community. And I'm thinking about the number of guys that you and I have seen try to come in, and they just weren't ready. They weren't ready for that kind of structure. They weren't ready for authority, which you are the authority in that setting. They weren't ready to submit, and they weren't ready to work their steps. They just weren't ready. And what do you tell them when?
Yeah, you know what I tell them.
Tell him what you tell them.
If they're not ready, they hit the bricks. You got to submit. You got to be ready. You got to. It's our way or the highway. Right? I mean,
there's a certain level of, I call them guardrails, and that's what these steps. They're there for a reason. They're there to guide you. They're there to protect you, and they're there to set a path. And you can stay on a step. I mean, you can stay on it. You can camp on a stepping stone for however long.
Is there an expiration date?
Is there an expiration date? Not really.
no.
Okay.
You can stay as long as you want. Just stay dry. I mean, if this was a brook, and you're using these stepping stones to get across the creek, we don't care how long you stay. Just stay dry. And we'd prefer that you not fall in. Yeah. But if you do fall in, we're there.
Yeah.
But you got to commit to get across, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to let you drown. That's why we're there. We're lifeguards. But
So how do people respond when you say, get ready or hit the bricks? Do people wake up? Do they just get angry? What's the response?
50-50. A lot of people are there for a free ride, and some people are there for the right reasons. They weed themselves out pretty quick.
No.
Don't you feel?
yeah.
And you can how good are you at predicting?
You can usually tell within the first few days.
Okay. Have you seen people come around to where they weren't, maybe they were ready enough, but they weren't all the way ready? Have you seen people come around?
Yeah, I've been surprised by a few too.
Yeah.
There's been a few that I was wrong on. Not many, but there's been a few that I would have lost everything if I bet on it.
Yeah. What, for those few that we seem like maybe they aren't ready, but they end up getting there, are there things that help them along that path to becoming entirely ready when they weren't so sure before?
The support we give them.
Because if you're not ready to change, maybe you'll buy into that this is a trustworthy place.
The other men in the house, myself, the other guys that drive, getting them to meetings, talking to them, letting them know where we were and where we are now, and people like Rick that come around, sponsor, and tells his story. And
I would go back. I think back to what Jolie said in step 5 about having somebody that you trust. I'd go back to what Joe said in step 4 about not doing this alone. Isolation, living in isolation, just like addiction being in isolation. Isolation is, I've said it many times, isolation is the kiss of death for an addict of any kind, whatever you're doing. And that's where the danger comes, is trying to do this on an I basis. When you're alone, which is why, Paul says, bear one another's burdens in love, so fulfill the law of Christ, and being there and having somebody to come alongside you. And that's the beauty of what happens with a sponsor-sponsee relationship, a discipleship learner kind of environment, and a sober living house, that kind of environment, which Shawn knows that community and that environment incredibly well. So, I think there's so much to be said for that. The question is somebody ready to get out of isolation and and then be with someone? And one of those shortcomings is, a huge shortcoming, is I need help. I need to have somebody come alongside me. And that's huge pride. I'm okay.
No, so we'd be ready, not just for God to change us, but ready to set our pride down.
And here we've just come out of this 5th step and the very first thing that we do is, I'm ready. It's almost like you're revisiting step 1 when you get to step 6.
All right, well, that's going to end our conversation for this part. But Shawn, I want to give you one more chance. Is there anything else you want to say about step 6 or step work in general before we take a break?
Yeah, I'm on my third sponsor, and this is the fourth time I've done the steps. It gets easier every time you do them, and you learn something new about yourself every time you do them.
Oh.
And I believe you should continuously work them also.
No, keep working them because it works if you work it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining us for this part of the conversation. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back to wrap up our conversation on step number 6. Welcome back as we wrap up our conversation on step number 6. Rick, I have to say this conversation is one I have learned a lot from. It's like reading step 6, I thought I really understood it. And then as we've kind of peeled this onion, there's been layers to this that I didn't anticipate or expect, and it makes a lot more sense to me now. In reading about step number 6 in this handy dandy book that you gave me, it opens with a quote, and I'm gonna change it just a little bit. But this is the step that separates the grown-ups from the children, or so declared a well-loved clergy person who happened to be a big friend of people in recovery. This is the step that separates the grown-ups from the children. Is that true?
Well, I remember the quote. It actually says this is the one that separates the men from the boys.
Yeah, but recovery is not only for men, so that's why I changed it.
I understand. We can be politically correct
Well,
all we want to.
It's not about politically correctness.
Yeah.
It's about It's about telling the truth.
It is. The reason for that, I think, is because when we get out of step 5, we go, whew, the healing's done. I mean, the healing begins. And that is truly the case for anybody that's worked the steps. There's this huge aha moment, both mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in every way. They say, stay till the miracle happens. And after step 5, and so I think what happens is there's this temptation to kind of let your guard down because you have that aha moment on so many different levels. And then all of a sudden, they hit you with, are you ready to have your shortcomings removed? Wait, I just got healed. You mean I still have shortcomings left? No. So it's kind of like a
Is it like the work feels like it's kind of almost done, but you're not even halfway through yet?
Well, yeah, exactly. And then you read something or you go to a meeting and they say, if you're painstaking about this phase of our development, you'll be amazed before you're halfway through. And you think, I thought I was halfway through. And now you're telling me that after this healing, I've got shortcomings still. And you're going, oh, darn. Yeah. So all of a sudden, there's this paradox that all of a sudden you're confronted with. On the other hand, we also are faced with this discipleship concept that we work out our salvation with fear and trembling. But you brought something up with Shawn that was like really stuck in my head, and that was the idea of perfection. And throughout the 12-step program, we hear over and over again, we are progress. We seek progress, not perfection.
Wow. Yeah.
Over and over. And there is no perfection. No such thing as perfection. I remember a quote in Tiger Woods one time. They said something about the perfect game. He said, I don't seek that. I seek professional excellence. And that puts something huge perspective for me. All I'm seeking is personal and spiritual excellence. It goes back to what I'm becoming. I'm becoming a child of the King. I'm becoming a better me than I was yesterday. You know, we talk about one day at a time. I want today to be better than yesterday. I want to be stronger than I was yesterday. I want to be closer than I was yesterday. Go back to the podcast that we did on prayer. My people relating and yearning. I want to know him better. I want to communicate with him better. I want fewer shortcomings today than I had yesterday. It's never going to be perfect.
Well, I hope someone and maybe I'm hearing this in this conversation, hopefully someone else hears it too, that no matter where we are in our faith journey and our recovery journey, there is still progress that can be made. We just got to be ready for it, and we've got to trust that God's not done with us yet, no matter who we are or where we are in this journey.
Right. And yesterday, I thought I was ready. And just like Shawn said, tomorrow I want to be a little bit more ready.
Yeah.
And I want to be a little bit closer. And the next day I want to be maybe a little bit entirely ready, because there were maybe some things tomorrow I'll be ready to let go of a little less, because I might be holding on to a few things a little tight today. Tomorrow I might not be holding on so tight.
There's always hope for tomorrow.
Exactly.
Well, Rick, thank you for being part of this conversation. Thank you for joining us as we've talked about step number 6 here at the conversation on our journey of recovery. We'll see you for our conversation on step number 7.
All right. Thanks, Nick.